Welcome to the Seminole State College Board of Trustees meeting, May 11th, 2020, our second virtual meeting of the year, and hopefully we'll be able to resume face-to-face very soon, because I definitely miss the connection and being face-to-face with all of you and meeting in that way. So hopefully Zoom will be a thing of the past sometime soon. So if that rhymes. Anyway, so thank you all for being here. We're going to go ahead and get started with the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and lead with the Pledge of Allegiance. You have the flag up? All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we don't have any public comment cards submitted for the off the agenda comment, but do we have any? I guess we don't have any for any items on the agenda. So we'll go ahead and move to the rest of our agenda before we get to the business of the agenda. We have two guests with us here today, our Jack Kent Cook Scholars. Thank you for being with us. Daliani and Kate, thank you. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Lorenz to introduce you all, and then we'll hear from you. So thanks for being here.
Well, you're about to meet two of our amazing students. Both are members of the Grindle Honors Institute. As you know, we had 6 semifinalists for the Jack Kent Cook undergraduate transfer scholarship this year, and Kate and Daliani were both among the winners. Interestingly, the foundation gave out 10 fewer scholarships this year. So this victory is even more sweet because Kate and Daliani are amongst an even more elite group of community college transfer students. And as you know, this scholarship gives them $40,000 towards the completion of their bachelor's degree, and then additional funds should they want to pursue a master's degree down the line. So why don't we go ahead and start with Kate. And Kate, maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself, your academic pursuits, and what it feels like to be a Jack Kent Cook Scholar, and maybe what is next for you.
So I took the wrong path, or the different path, getting out of high school, and decided to have children and get married, and worked several years in the restaurant business. I am actually a recovering addict, and I said I got to change my ways for not only myself but my family. And I was always interested in the legal field, so my mother's in Winter Haven, so I looked at schools around, and Seminole State seemed to have the best program for the legal studies paralegal program, which was an ABA approved out of 9 out of the state. And so I decided that I would start that. And once I finished that in summer of 2019, I said, and I had a job, but I said, why stop? Why stop there? So I've finished my AA, graduated this semester, spring, and applied for Jack Kent Cook, and my whole life has been flipped upside down. And I couldn't be more proud of the work and the effort and the time. I put a lot of time into the school as well. I was president of the law club. I was president of Phi Theta Kappa. I was president of vice president of Brain Bowl. I was part of the honors. I did, won a freshman undocumented research through the Florida Collegiate Honors Conference. So I look forward to what possibilities are still out there.
And do you know next year?
I have been accepted to Stetson and Rollins. I am still officially waiting for 7 more schools. I have the big Ivies I'm still waiting for. So I would like to pursue my degree in international relations, and then follow that with a JD so that I can work for international work.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Daliani, how about you? Tell us a little bit about your academic pursuits and how it feels to be a JKC scholar, and what's next for you.
Yes, absolutely. So I recently moved to Florida from Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria 3 years ago. I went and graduated in my senior year from Lake Brantley High School. I did my last 7 months, around 7 months in Lake Brantley High School. Decided to go to Seminole State College because after so much transition in such a short amount of time, I decided it would be best to stay close to home since I lived in the Altamont campus. Um, the honors department actually reached out to me saying I should apply for the honors program, given that I had graduated with a high GPA. And I wanted to stay in the Altamont campus just because I wanted to stay close to home. However, that showed me the way to be able to go into the Stanford campus because I decided it would be a great opportunity to be able to join. And I have not regretted my decision because it's been wonderful to be able to participate in so many extracurricular student life, and especially being part of the honors program, which have been the people who have inspired me to be where I am today. The first thing I saw when I walked into the honors center was a wall filled with pictures of people that had won this big scholarship, and I never imagined I could be one of those people, especially since there had been so much transition in such a much short amount of time. But I'm so grateful to have been given this opportunity since I saw so much need in my island of Puerto Rico, especially with food security and finances and job security. I decided to go into the field of finance, and I really want to be an advocate for the environment. So I am minoring in sustainable food systems, which is going to open doors for me to reach my goal of advocating for agriculture and local agriculture.
Excellent. And do you know where you're headed next?
I am planning to go into Stetson. I had visited the university when I graduated from high school, and although I made my decision to go to Seminole State, that was always in my heart, and now I will be able to achieve that goal.
Excellent. Well, as I've told you before, we are all so proud of you and so proud that you're going to be out there representing Seminole State alums. Congratulations on all of your success, and I'll open it up for the board members to make any comments that you might want to.
Board members, any comments?
Mr. President, so Kate, your story resonates with so much of us. I too had children early first and kind of interrupted my studies, but one thing for you is just your success is just what drives you. You're very driven. Continue pushing and continue learning. I wish you the best moving forward, and you make us proud. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Daliani, I've got to tell you something that gives me goosebumps. So there's two people here that are part of your success, and I'll tell you how. Scott Howard, the chairman, came to me about 3 years ago to my office when I was a legislator, and he told me, Bob, if we do nothing to help the students from Puerto Rico, particularly the seniors, if we do nothing, they will fail your senior year. And you were one of those examples. You were only 7 months in Brantley coming forward. Scott came to me. I went to Governor Scott, and I told Governor Scott and back then the Commission of Education, we came up with a plan in December of 2017 that created for the first time ever an interlocal agreement between the DOE in Puerto Rico and the DOE here, where students like you would not be able to be held back, that you would be able to graduate. 430 something students that year in Florida graduated because of that. And of course, the story moves on that you went to Seminole State, the Raiders, and now you're moving forward. So you're a success story of many things that we were looking to do. And back then we had no clue that you were going to be one of our success stories, and you make us so proud. And then finally, I'm from Pájaros too. I grew up in Bayamón, Puerto Rico. Yo me crié en Valencia, and that's just up the road from La Calle Pájaros. And my family is from Pájaros. in Tallahassee, and I went to Cacique-Awayana High School, so you're from my hometown, so even
That's
proud.
incredible. Thank you so much for everything. From the bottom of my heart, I can't, this gives me goosebumps as well. I am so grateful for everything you have done for me and for all Puerto Rican students. I had the opportunity to be able to meet Scott, Ray Scott, and be able to thank him myself. So I am speechless. Thank you. Thank you for everything.
Thank you. Make us proud.
Any other board members? No?
I just wanted to say congratulations to both of these exquisite young ladies. You have already made us proud, and I know you're going to go far with all of your continued successes. And I do remember you at Lake Brantley because I serve on the school board as well. So bravo. Continue the great work at Stetson and beyond. And I look forward to hearing what other Ivies you hear from. So keep us in the loop, because once a Raider, always a Raider. Go State, go far. We're proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you for my personalized card as well in the mail, Mr. Calderon.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm so proud.
Yeah, well, thank you both for joining us. You both have amazing stories. Obviously, two different paths, but led to the same place and possibly the same school. Who knows? Maybe you'll both end up at Stetson. But like Trustee Calderon said, once a Raider, always a Raider. We appreciate you, you guys, everything you've done and all your accomplishments, and can't wait to see where it takes you both. And like Trustee Cortez said almost 3 years ago now, looking back, we would have never known. Obviously, we knew that there was going to be some obstacles for our citizens coming from Puerto Rico, moving to Central Florida, and wanted to do everything we could to make that path smoother, especially for our seniors that were coming to us and upper grades. And we're so happy to see where it's taken you, and it does make us proud to be able to see what you've been able to accomplish as a result of that good work that and Representative Cortez did with Governor Scott. So thank you both for being here and for sharing your stories, and we wish you all the best, and go State, go far. So thanks for
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Well, that was a great intro to the president's report. I'll tell you, that was
yes, absolutely
amazing. So two amazing students right there that are going to do great things.
Absolutely.
Lorenz, you want to take over with the president's report?
Sure. Well, first, thank you again to all of you for your flexibility and adaptability as we hold our second virtual emergency board meeting since the COVID-19 crisis began. As you know, these meetings are very important to continue college operations without any disruption or interruption. And today's meeting is particularly critical because we're sharing information with you about the proposed 2020-2021 college budget. A budget must be passed in time for the new fiscal year, and we needed today as an opportunity to gather your input and feedback prior to seeking your approval in June. And I'd like to thank Joe Major, Judy Cooper, Naomi Pham, and everyone in Fiscal Services who worked on the information that will be presented to you today. Today is the first day of summer session classes, so let me begin with an enrollment update. We did an initial drop for non-payment on April 30th and again last Thursday. After that point, students are dropped each day for non-payment. So we're sort of caught up and have a better point-to-point comparison now than we did at our April board meeting in terms of enrollment. We're trending about 5.8% ahead of last year's enrollment at this point. Head count continues to be higher than summer 2019, but the average enrollments per student are trending a bit lower at only 2.2 classes per student on average. Lower division credit is up 14% or more than 2,100 enrollments. Bachelor's degree seeking students are trending 5% ahead of last year. The non-credit programs and academic foundations are trending a little bit behind last year, and we suspect that that is primarily due to the change to online-only registration and enrollment, and staff continue to support students to resolve that barrier. As I explained at last month's meeting, I asked Academic Affairs, Institutional Effectiveness and Research, and Business Services to work together to create several scenarios in terms of both enrollment and the ensuing fiscal impact, and then model how the college could respond to each of those 4 scenarios. Mark Morgan presented the results of this collaborative effort with 4 potential scenarios ranging from a quick economic recovery all the way to a worst case scenario. And after much discussion and deliberation and consultation, we decided to budget based on a 3% increase in enrollment for 2020-2021 academic year. So this seems realistic and achievable given the extremes we're seeing in the unemployment rates, as well as the bump that we're seeing this summer, while not overstating the surge that we may see over the arc of the entire academic year. If the economic recovery is quick, we may not see the same surge later in the academic year as we might in summer and fall. Last week, as Trustee Howitt mentioned, was the start of Governor DeSantis's phase 1 plan to reopen Florida, safe, smart, step by step. To develop and enact our own plan for reopening, I'm appointing a Safe Campus Reopening Task Force. This is a subset of our standing emergency response team and will engage the incident command system protocols and continuity of operations plans that we already have in place and utilize regularly to respond to other crisis situations. So these are sort of tried and true strategies. This working group will examine all aspects of our college's operations to determine the best and safest course for the 2020 fall semester and beyond, and make recommendations to the college's emergency response team and executive team. As always, our shared priority will be the safety and well-being of our employees, our students, and the wider community, as well as an excellent educational experience for our students. Task force members will represent all employee groups and our student body. Subgroups will examine every aspect of our facilities, operations, and personal interactions in detail, and they will use various mechanisms to listen to and gather ideas and concerns from our employees, particularly those with direct student contact, and our students. They will also be informed by data and public policy from Seminole County health officials and emergency managers, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Florida Department of Health, our own environmental and risk management staff, and best practices from other colleges and universities. And as always, we are committed to regular communication with the college community. Now a CARES funding update. The college has completed all necessary paperwork to receive both the institutional and student funds allocated to us through the federal Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security, or CARES Act. And we recently found out that we're eligible for an additional allocation of $517,000 under Section 18004A2. We fall into the category of the Strengthening Institutions Program. These funds are primarily set aside for institutions who serve a higher percentage of students from typically underrepresented groups. These funds may be used to defray institutional expenses, which may include lost revenue, reimbursement for expenses already incurred, technology costs associated with the transition to distance education, and other relevant expenses. And this, of course, is a welcomed relief. I would like to thank Concetta Duran, Coordinator of Grants Development, for always being at the ready and for her quick action in applying for these funds. I have her on speed dial these days. Under the leadership of Vice President Johnny Craig and Director of Student Financial Resources, Roseanne Amato, a small team has been working on the plan to disperse funds to students. Those details will be released soon in order to implement our plan quickly to benefit our students. Last year, we renegotiated the full collective bargaining agreement, and it was decided that there would be 3 ranks for professors: associate professor, professor, and the optional rank of distinguished professor. Rank advancement to distinguished professor is awarded based on demonstration of excellence in performance of primary duties and responsibilities, college service, and contributions to the profession and discipline. Faculty members may apply during or after their 15th year following the award of continuing contract. Each year, a maximum of 10 applicants will be reviewed. The applicants submit portfolios to a review committee made up of 7 faculty members. Each applicant also made a presentation to the committee showcasing teaching excellence, best practices, accomplishments, and/or contributions to the college and community. The review committee then sends their recommendations to the Vice President of Academic Affairs, who sends her recommendations to me. Then I recommend to the board the following faculty for rank of Distinguished Professor in this inaugural year: Dr. Frank Albritton from Social Science, Mary Colon from Biology, Dr. Michael Hoover from Social Science, Dr. Robert McGraw from Health Science, and Ben Taylor from Information Technology. Distinguished professors will receive a one-time payment of $5,000 from the foundation. Rank changes go into effect at the beginning of the next contract year. Please join me in congratulating our inaugural Distinguished Professor group. Now, we also have exciting news in the world of nursing. Seminole State College's Bachelor of Nursing degree in nursing, our RN to BSN program, has been granted national accreditation by the Accreditation Commission for Education in Nursing, that we refer to as ACEN. Delivered 100% online, the RN to BSN online enables nurses to continue working while pursuing their BSN degree. Designed specifically for currently registered nurses and those who are eligible to take the National Council Licensure Exam Registered Nurse, or NCLEX RN exam, Seminole State's RN to BSN degree can be completed in as little as 1 year and at a total cost of about $5,000. Students can also choose a less accelerated path to degree completion if that's what fits with them. The ACEN accreditation means Seminole State's RN to BSN online has attained a level that meets or exceeds national and industry standards. So congratulations to Associate Vice President and Interim Director of the RN to BSN program, Cheryl Sicati, and her entire team. And I was there to witness it. They did an awesome job preparing for that accreditation site visit, and the team was really impressed. So congratulations to everyone over there. In late April, Student Life held a virtual recognition event with 72 students, staff, and faculty participating. We won't let this crisis get in our way. We recognized our student leaders for their outstanding work in building engagement. The students said they appreciated the break from classes and seeing everyone. The award winners were Advisor of the Year, Travis Suits for Phi Theta Kappa. The GIVE Award, which is given for the most community service hours for a student organization, went to the Student Nurses Association, which had over 1,000 hours of service for their club alone. Volunteer of the Year was Morgan Denny with the Student Nursing Association. We had 71 students who received Outstanding Student Leader Awards. They were nominated by their club advisor from about 27 different organizations. The Sanford Lake Mary Club of the Year was the Hispanic Student Association, for which Daliani was the president, and I should mention that Kate was the president of Phi Theta Kappa. Oviedo Club of the Year was Environmental Initiatives. Altamont Club of the Year was Social Science, and the Heathrow Club of the Year was the International Interior Design Association. Congratulations to everyone, and a huge special thank you to our outgoing SGA presidents, Carla Intriago at Sanford, Martin Mazzeo at Oviedo, Andre Biot at Heathrow, and Sam Cerisi at Altamont. Our application to the National Science Foundation for Scholarships in STEM was awarded. The awarded amount is $621,344 over the next 4 years to strengthen the pathway for students pursuing biology-related degrees and to provide the financial resources to support their efforts. You might recall hearing from Dr. Maya Byfield several months ago, happened to be the day we had a fire alarm go off during the board meeting. So congratulations to her as the principal investigator, along with co-principal investigators, biology professors Marisol De Jesus Barrios and Simone Nelson, and math professor Tamara Steffi. For the second year in a row, Seminole State College has been recognized as one of the best commuter workplaces for Central Florida. This feels a little ironic these days, but we happily accept this award. Last month, Dr. Jan Lloyd-Leslie, Associate Vice President of Student Development, and Charmaine Thompson-Douglas, Human Resources Director, represented the college at the Metro Orlando Planning Board virtual meeting and received the award on our behalf. Seminole State College is a member of NASPA, Student Affairs Professionals in Higher Education Association, which is a professional development association for student affairs staff and others interested in student advocacy, student success, and equity, inclusion, and social justice. Through the NASPA membership, Seminole State has been nationally recognized for our Destination Graduation Emergency Aid Program. Selected in the inaugural cohort of the First Scholars Network, which recognizes our first generation program as a national practice, as well as being selected in the Civic Learning and Democratic Engagement Initiative, which connects similar institutions to discuss best practices for social justice, political engagement, and civic learning. Staff can actively participate in professional development opportunities to strengthen their skill set and better serve our students. So we're very proud to be among the first set of institutions admitted into this First Scholars Network. So as you know, we're having our virtual spring graduation on May 20th. Students have until June 5th to be certified to graduate, but I thought I would share with you the numbers that we have as of May 6th. 2,196 students are expected to graduate. The total number of awards we are reviewing for certification at 2,571. We have 220 students receiving bachelor's degrees, which breaks down to 55 in business information management, 23 in construction, 7 in engineering technology, 48 in health sciences, 8 in interior design, 60 in information systems technology, and 19 in our new RN to BSN program. We're awarding 1,091 AA or AS degrees, 1,186 certificates, and 74 high school diplomas. Our students have shown us that they can be successful even under the most trying of circumstances. Our students received actually more President's and Dean's List honors this spring 2020 semester than they did compared to our spring 2019 semester. To think that students still pushed through this disruption and maintained, if not gained, in academic achievement is amazing. This is wonderful news. So spring 2019, the total was 4,754. And this spring, it's 5,617. So we are just amazed and proud and really look forward to being able to celebrate with them, hopefully in the fall at our event. As we end the spring semester, I thought I would share with you how our student athletes did academically. The combined GPA for all athletes is 3.19, not too shabby. Broken down by sport, the numbers are softball wins at 3.77. Our golf team had an average of 3.59, cross country at 2.94, and baseball at 2.82. Some other amazing stats for our student athletes. Out of 74 student athletes, 50 earned academic all mid-Florida, which is a GPA of 3.0 or above for the year. 37 earned academic all region 8, which is a 3.3 or above for the year. And 19 earned academic all American with a 3.6 or above for the year, which is 25% of our student athletes. And 6 earned a perfect for 4.0. So congratulations to Athletic Director Kurt Esser and all of our coaches for working hard with our students to keep them on track academically. So our planetarium is continuing its out of this world events with virtual shows on Thursdays at 7 p.m. on Facebook Live. The planetarium will also host a special session with the Women in STEAM virtual panel featuring talented women, including some of our very own professors who work in the fields of science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, which is where we get the STEAM acronym. The panelists will share their experiences and encourage those who are pursuing STEAM careers. This session will begin May 18th at 7 p.m. on Facebook Live. And for more information, you can visit the planetarium on Facebook. On Sunday, May 10th, several departments of the college began the summer 4-day class schedule and work weeks. This summer schedule will continue through Saturday, August 1st. The college will continue to operate remotely during the summer term with limited exceptions. So, you know, typically a significant portion of my time is spent connecting with members of the Central Florida community and with supporters and friends of the college. That has been seriously diminished over the past 6 or 7 weeks. So I was very happy to have multiple opportunities to reconnect through a handful of virtual events recently. I participated in a meeting as a member of the Orlando Business Journal Leadership Trust and got to hear from a group of business leaders about how they and their employees are working through this crisis. I helped to facilitate what we called an unmeeting of the Florida executive women on Zoom, which was very fun and uplifting. I really enjoyed the Seminole County Chamber of Commerce's Good Morning Seminole session last week, which featured our partners and supporters, Sean Molsberger of Orlando Health, Tim Cook from Advent Health, and Trey Abshir from Central Florida Regional Hospital. Finally, I attended the virtual It Takes a Village breakfast fundraiser for the Village Transitional Housing and Homelessness Prevention Program. I'm really looking forward to the day that we can reconnect in person, but in the interim, these events have been valuable and positive. So our next board meeting, as I mentioned at the start, we will require another emergency board meeting in June to ask for your approval of the final budget for 2021. It will be on Monday, June 15th at 2 p.m. and it will be a virtual meeting. And that concludes my report.
Excellent. Great report. Lots of great things happening, even in the virtual world, right? That's awesome. Great, thank you. And you alluded to this, we're gonna go into the budget workshop presentation now. Is Joe with us? We're going.
I believe he is waiting in the wings.
He is ready.
And he's going to share his screen as well. Hi, Joe.
Hello, hello. All right, let me share the screen here. And, okay. All right. What you should see is a slide, the District Board of Trustees and 2021 budget workshop. I hope you're seeing that. So we have about 30 slides today, and what we're presenting is Dr. Lorenz and the executive team, just thoughts and recommendations given the information that we have right now. And you're going to hear me talking about the uncertainty of the future, not only from the enrollment situation, which Dr. Lorenz gave an update on earlier in her president's report, but also where we are with state appropriations and things that are affecting all of us. The slide should be advancing. There we go. All right, so here's the agenda today. We're going to be touching on the budgets, or just where we are for the various funds. Fund 1, the operating fund. Fund 2, the restricted grants and contracts fund. Fund 3, the auxiliary funds, and Fund 7, the construction and capital funds. Okay. So first up, we will talk about just taking a look at where we are in the current fiscal year and what our projections are. These projections are recent. They're, I believe, 1 week or 10 days old. And again, as Dr. Lorenz said, thank you to Judy and Naomi for helping me get this this presentation together, and also for giving us the updates at executive team throughout this process. So again, looking at the drivers for revenue, we're going to be looking at enrollment and then go down to at a high level to the operating expenses. So here's where we are, and you'll know that this is the enrollment. This is what we budgeted at the beginning of the fiscal year. All right, we budgeted an increase of 1.5%. Okay, and this is where we are as of the current projection. So we're actually projected a decrease of 0.1% down. You'll recall we had the unexpected decrease for the fall term, and then happily an increase in the spring term. And right now it appears that we're going to have an increase for the summer. But the overall net effect, because of the large decrease in fall, is a decrease of 0.1%. And if there's any questions that you have for Dr. Lorenz or I, please feel free to interrupt. And of course, at the end, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions as well. So now we're going to drill down into some of the higher level details. You can see.
Joe, let me just say that if anyone has a question as we go through with any particular slide, if you guys just want to signal, we can go ahead and stop and do that. If not, we can go through and save the questions for the end. If everyone prefers to do that, then we'll come back to the slide and go back.
Thank you, Chair Howard. All right, so what you can see is the current budget versus our projection as of the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th. And the current budget does reflect all of the budget amendments that we take to you throughout the year for Fund 1. And you can see on the far right column is just a variance for favorable or unfavorable. So the decrease there of 1.1 million, or the variance for revenues, is obviously related to the decrease in FTE that we just talked about, projected decrease overall. We've also had some increases in expenditures. And then right now is a subtotal for the surplus and deficit. Okay, in the next slide, we're going to talk about how we are funding that, in this case, the deficit. And those are through transfers from all of our auxiliary Fund 3s, which are the first two lines there, the obligations, things that we normally commit to fund in Fund 1, such as the tech refresh, and then also general operations, just to help support Fund 1, and then the designated reserves and the statutory reserves, that's the Fund 1 component. Okay, so when we pull in those reserves, you can see that we have, again, a total surplus / deficit of 0. All right, so the takeaway from this slide, though, is the very top line. You can see that the budget at the time is a deficit, or funding from reserves, of $3.1 million. Okay, so at the end of the projected results at the end of the fiscal year of June 30th, we're projecting that we'll only need to transfer in $2.3 million, or you can see there that far right column, about $769,000. All right, so this is good news. This is the hard work that Dr. Lorenz, and again, everyone on the executive team, and then flowing down throughout the organization, to do some changes within the fiscal year because of what was going on, that large unexpected enrollment decrease in the fall. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and now shift gears, start going into next year's budget, or we've just seen a snapshot of right now. I'm going to go into next year's budget and again take a look at some of the revenue drivers, some of the trends that we're seeing, and then move through the expenses. Okay, so here's a list here of key budget assumptions for the upcoming fiscal year. We're budgeting an increase right now, a very conservative revenue approach of 3.3%. Again, historically, when we've had some economic downturns or disruptions, students come to us to get some more job skills, and in some cases also to get money to help survive and get those additional credentials and even degrees to help them be more marketable in the workforce when the economy has returns to normal. Okay, so while the number could be higher than this, again, through the hard work of the Strategic Enrollment Management Committee, opted for the most conservative revenue approach. And if we in fact exceed this in the next fiscal year, we will take a budget amendment to the board to be able to budget those actual revenues if they are higher. All right, the next bullet point. We are not proposing, or we don't plan to propose or recommend to the board an increase in the statutory tuition rate or the statutory local fees. Those are the student activities fees, financial aid fees, capital improvement fees, technology fee, for example. Also, because of the uncertainty, and we'll get into the details of the revenue and the expense budget, we are not recommending any recurring compensation adjustment at this time. Okay, we are going to be covering the cost of health insurance for our employees, which right now we're just projecting to be at 6.5%. All right, that's about $300,000. Okay, and let me remind the board also that we still do have the employee cost share for each employee that is eligible for the health insurance benefit of $600 that they contribute to the cost of their health insurance. And then this next bullet point, this is, I added this, I forgot to include it in the version that you received. Here, you recall I made reference to this in the executive committee meeting, just talking about, we also have cost increases in our property casualty insurance, as well as the catastrophe fund. That increase is $253,000. And then finally, you've heard me talk about the increase, the statutory increases in the FR rates. This again is the college portion, and that's 18%, or dollar amount wise, about $700,000. There is no change to the employee portion. The employee also cost shares. Each employee that's eligible for FRS must contribute 3% towards their FRS retirement as well. Okay, so now we're going to get, now we've talked about the key assumptions, we're going to get into some of the revenue drivers and the trends that we're seeing. So what you're seeing here, and I know some of these numbers are small, the trend is the budgeted enrollment. All right, so from the fiscal years, you can see there at near the peak of 2011, 2012, all right, through the next year budget projection of a 3.3% FTE increase, okay? So again, the trend for us has been increasing, which is a good thing, but except for last year, you can see the 19-20 projection where we had it flat or 0.1% down due to that unexpected fall decrease. Okay. And what this slide shows is actual revenue per FTE. All right. So for each student, full-time equivalent, so 30 credit hours is a full-time equivalent. So that adjusts or gets a standard factor for the mix of students that we have that are full-time as well as part-time students. And you can see in the legend is the blue is state allocations per FTE. The orange is student tuition and fees. Okay, this is the student tuition and fees, the amount paid by the students, and then the gray is the other. Okay, so the main thing here, you can see that at least in the past few years, it looks somewhat flat, but the main takeaway from this slide, let me see if I can get my laser pointer, if I'm doing technology right. Okay, so over here in 2007, 2008, that blue line, all right, this is the state allocation per FTE. Let's look where we are for the projection 2021. All right, that amount is actually less right now. While we're very thankful that the legislature did not reduce funding in the periods where the system had enrollment declines, when we look at the actual dollars, historically, we're still not funded at the 2007, 2008 levels. And we were thankful for the legislature back here at this time that allowed colleges to increase student tuition to be able to, for us to continue to expand programs during the periods of double-digit growth, as well as maintain the high quality, high value education for our students. During these times, we were also experiencing cost escalations, okay? All right, so Mr. Collins, you recall, my predecessor, whoops, let me click on that. There we go. All right, he put this slide in last year, and I thought, hey, this is a good thing to kind of give some perspective. So what this is the prior slide, but we've added trying to adjust for inflation. Okay, so this goes back again to the same period, 2007, 2008, and this gap here, I know it's hard to read on some of your screens. This is the CPI adjustment. This is the amount per FTE if we were able to include the cost for inflation. Okay. Now, again, given the current situation and what's going on with the economy, we're not sure what'll happen with inflation at this point. But again, this is the best numbers from the Bureau of Labor Statistics that we have at the time. So again, just a little factoid and something to give some perspective on the cost of inflation in real dollars adjusted for inflation. All right, so taking all those pieces in, pardon me, so here is where we are, and this is the current projected revenue for the end of the year. All right. And this is what we're projecting for the 2021. And then I'm going to get into a little bit of detail But you can see that right now we have $0 projected as an increase and decrease. And that's due to some of the uncertainty. And again, I'll get into the details. Tuition and fee increase compared to the prior year projected up about 2.6 million. Other revenues about flat, down about 167,000. So this is where we are with the total revenue. All right. So let's get into the details of the state allocation. All right, so what you're seeing here on the left, there's actually a number of different buckets that we get from the state based upon the breakout of the appropriations, the GAA, the General Appropriations Act passed by the legislature. All right, so you can see here this big question mark. All right. We are not sure, given the situation, but the legislature did pass a budget, and you'll recall at the executive committee presentation, we were looking at possible net new money of, right around $700,000. Okay, but that the GAA has not been given to the governor, and we're unsure exactly what he's going to do at this time. Okay, so. For us to comply with the state statute to present a budget, as Dr. Lorenz mentioned, right now we're going to present the numbers as they are. And you'll see that there's different shifts. We know that some of the information is that the legislature moved money in between the various buckets. So the general program fund and the lottery, all right, you're seeing that shift. Student Success Initiative 2+2, that's the Senate model, some workforce incentive dollars, all right. And then again, we're projecting the same amount of industry certifications as last year. Okay, so talking it out with Dr. Lorenz and executive team based upon, we know we're thinking of 3 scenarios possibly, okay? One of those could be that the governor vetoes the entire bill. This is the full nuclear option, tells this legislature to go back and send him a budget that he can sign, or an appropriations act. All right, we don't think that that's gonna happen. We think it's going to be one of the other 2 options, that he does a line item veto. He does line item vetoes now based upon some of the messaging that we have from the Senate President Galvano, I believe, or anyway, some of the legislative leadership. That they may keep things going because of the cash flow situation right now. That they don't have to do any large changes, and then perhaps mid-year cut, do a mid-year cut sometime in late fall, early winter / spring. Okay, so that's our feeling. And the last one is that the governor does some line item vetoes and then sends the legislature, or asks the legislature to go back into special session to handle some of those items. Okay, so not sure where we are at this point, but again. We think it's going to be one of the last 2 options, meaning line item vetoes with perhaps special session in certain areas that were line item vetoed, or mid-year budget cuts. Okay. All right. So talked about the state levels. Now we're going to talk in and just go and look at some of our tuition and fees per credit hour. Okay. Again, not proposing a change, and this is resident lower division. All right. And we're not presenting a change for the resident upper division, which is the baccalaureate programs. Okay, so no change there at 104.38. And on this slide also, this is the non-resident lower division as well, presenting no change, and we're not requesting a change for actually any tuition and statutory local fees, as I referenced earlier, again at this time. And we're not asking the board to approve anything, just sharing at least where we are right now for a presentation at the June meeting. All right, so we always like to benchmark ourselves against the system. Okay, so what you're seeing there in the gold is our current base tuition rate. And let me go back one slide. All right, that here is the 79.78. Okay, all right, so we're actually below the state average, which is this red bar right here. All right, and then the max statutory is 82.78. And you can see that there's a number of colleges, 6 that are at the max rate. Valencia is just a few pennies below the max rate. So from at least looking at where we stand, we do have capacity, but again, we are not recommending any tuition or statutory local fee increase at this time. And then also further along in the board meeting, you're going to see an item for upcoming fall for lab fees. So I'll go ahead and talk about that. and we built into the budget some of the projected increases, and you're going to see an increase. Some of the fees will increase, some will decrease. Some are new courses added, and many of them, especially in the construction and trades, are due to curriculum changes again. And but that's a separate item that we'll be asking for approval. But the main thing is that lab fees. These are fees based on unique or unusual costs to offer the course or the program of instruction. All right. So some of the examples, like for instance, in nursing, we have to have specialized accreditation. All right, and you want that accreditation. It's a gold standard, and it also allows the transferability of those credits. It helps the students get jobs and additional licensure needed. All right, so again, because of the unique accreditation to offer this program, that would be a justification. So let me reassure the board that yes, the lab fees that we do charge, and there is analysis to make sure that we're not making money on this or turning a profit, that it offsets. And again, thank you to the hard work from the academics side of the house, the deans and the faculty, when they go through this exercise, because it has to be done for each and every course that we offer, that we request to have a lab fee added. Okay. All right, so I know I'm now heading back to student tuition and fees overall. Again, this is in the thousands, so we project in-state tuition to increase. Not sure what about out-of-state fees and then the other student fees. So $2.6 million increase that we're expecting. All right, now we're going to switch gears. We talked about the revenue side. Let's go into the operating fund. All right, so you can see the big buckets. This is the high level. So compensation is salary, wages, and benefits, all right, including those that are statutorily that we have to pay, for example, the FICA taxes, FRS. All right, so this again is comparison of our current projected to, again, where we are right now with presenting the 2021 budget, expecting an increase of $312,000. Okay, so you recall from the presentation that I talked about some of the things that we knew about with increases in FRS as well as health insurance. The total of those two is about $1 million. So, you know, how come that's not reflected in here? Well, it's actually because of some of the good work. And I got a chart that's coming that talks about the differences in positions. There have been a couple of administrative positions that have been decreased, but also some cost savings in adjuncts and overload, for example. So that's why you're only seeing an incremental increase. There's some work and net savings that's offset by some of these increases that we're having to do. Operating expenses, you can see there, the 1.249 million. Okay, some of that is related to a degree planning software, and that description is not doing it justice, and we're taking that for the board's approval later today. But again, that's some dollars, but we think that the efficiencies that we're going to be able to gain to be able to serve students, and more importantly, help those students retain and complete, going to help advance the college if the board approves this. There's also the health insurance increases. You heard me talk about the property casualty as well as the catastrophe fund. Those dollar amounts or those increases that we know about are also in there. And then capital expenditures, we've reduced that by $23,000. Again, because of the uncertainty, we're going to triage the capital requests to handle those that are emergency or those that directly impact student instruction. Okay, so you can see again, while it's an increase overall, some of those again are statutory or at least from our insurance, the things that we need to do to be able to continue operating. All right, so you heard me talk about staffing on the slide. Here's the slide that I'm referring to. And you can see the trend here, the last 4 years, and the last three columns are where we were at the beginning of the budget, where we are now at positions, and then ultimately what we're requesting in next year's budget. So overall, it looks like we increased 9 positions, but you can see the net effect. It's because we're hiring some more part-time staff in certain areas, okay? And again, compared to the current in the budget, again, no change. We're still here at 795. All right, and then bottom, this is student FTEs, just to kind of see that trend. And the cool thing about data is when you put data in different areas, you can see some trends. So thank you to my team for putting this together. And this looks like a spaghetti diagram almost. But this line here is the total personnel full-time equivalents, okay? And then this here is the student head counts, and then here you can see the student FTE and history, okay? So at least in this period, we were decreasing actually staff when we had a period of increasing enrollment growth. And then again, now these 9 additional positions related to part-time positions that we're doing. Okay. All right. I know I'm throwing a lot of data at you. We're at slide 22. Just a few more. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and talk about the operating budget side. And then I have a summary slide. So just you can, again, we'll put this all in a bow here. All right. So again, just comparing the projected versus the budget. All right. And when you look at the increases in revenues, all right, and then the increase in expenditures as well, but not as much. All right, it looks like we have a surplus of 960. Okay, and you can see, continue next slide. All right, we still have a deficit that we're going to be funding some of the operating, but the good news is that deficit is now down by almost $1 million. So carrying on the good news that I shared about the current fiscal year, we're planning to do the same for the upcoming budget year. And then you can see the breakout here. Where is this deficit going to be funded from? All right, so summarize last year. Here's the current year, the $1.4 million deficit. Fund 3 is going to be about 1.3 million, and then designated reserves in Fund 1 only about 300,000. And again, this looks strange. This is a decrease, but it's because of the interplay with the statute for 5%. As the revenue changes, so does that 5%. So this is, you know, us good accountants, we like everything to balance to the penny. In this case, $65,000. But our plan is, at least right now, we have revenues balanced to our expenditures, as well as deficit funding or reserves or stabilization from reserves to equal 0. Okay. And again, going to give some data coming up here. All right, so this is just for the board's information where we are with the statutory reserves. Okay, all right, 16, 17. Okay, versus all the way through the our preliminary budget where we are. Okay, and then same slide, a different format. This is the designated reserves here. All right, so again, just seeing the trend here of our designated reserves going down. All right, so that is the operating fund. And again, now we're going to move on to the other funds that we take to the board, or we will be presenting next month for approval. And this is a snapshot here of Fund 2. This is our restricted funds. And this light green, if that's the color on your monitors. All right, this right here is the CARES Act fund, the higher education, the HERF portion of the overall CARES Act. All right, the 8.6 million, it's 8.1 for the institutional and student portion, and about $500,000 because we serve minority students, specifically Hispanic students. We got an additional 500,000. Okay, so this is our, again, over here is the legend. This is the 5-year comparative. All right, and of course, 2021 is the budget. These numbers will change as we get more grants throughout the year. And as we continue to report to the board throughout the year. But yeah, this is obviously a large piece, okay? Again, because of the CARES Act. State grants here, this is just, again, flow through. So some of our adult services, adult ed, career pathways grants.
Joe, I think the NSF grant that I just mentioned of 600,000 something, wouldn't that also show up in that federal number?
Yes, that would as well. And this slide was done approximately 1 week to 10 days ago. So yeah, that would be in here as well.
Our CARES Act money is about 8 million, and then we have about 600 something thousand for NSF. And then the 517,000 probably is in addition to that, because that's the one that needs to be added to this slide. So you'll see a little different next time if we go over this again.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Lorenz. And again, just the breakout student activity fees and foundation other grants. And I do want to give thanks to the foundation. This is actual support that they send us $1.3 million. So Thank you, Dr. Gillen, and the whole team, as well as the foundation board for their support. All right, so that's Fund 2, our restricted funds, as we call them. All right, now moving on to Fund 3. This is a very high level auxiliaries, and we have the big three. Bookstore, all right, we outsource our bookstore management services to Barnes & Nobles. We also have a rental of our college facilities, buildings, grounds, the gym, the baseball fields, as well as commissions on food and vending, and then we've lumped those together for just for ease in presentation. So you can see there they bring in the $1.3 million net, all right? So revenues minus the cost of operations, all right? And then you can see the transfers out here. This 1.3 million is what we go to fund specifically in operating funds. Some of the things I talked about earlier, such as the tech refresh. And then here's a little bit more detail on the Fund 3 budget. Okay, so these are some of the transfers that I referenced. Some of the things that we can't pay for in Florida statute, we use some of the marketing dollars. Again, we do that through our Fund 3 marketing, through Fund 3 transfers. So food, for example, we can't pay for that out of state appropriations, but we can do this, and we do, and all colleges do that as well. So again, this is no new information for the board. Tech refresh that I talked about, I think I said 400,000. It's actually 630,000. General operating support, and again, dual enrollment. This dual enrollment is for the homeschool materials. So in per Florida statute, any dual enrollment homeschool students, they are not required to pay for their dual enrollment materials, and the school board does not have to pay for those. So we fund, it's about $50,000. We fund those through our auxiliary transfers. And then also our employee fee waivers and some hardship scholarships. We again, use Fund 3 to fund those as well. And this is what right now we project, or at least in the budget. Okay. All right, one more, hang in there. And the last one, which is capital, the construction budgets, or the Fund 7, as we call it in accounting. And I know it's a little bit hard to read, but you can see this is again in thousands. So we have a carry forward budget of 16.2. And we've also broken out the expected insurance proceeds that we're planning to get right now for the sinkhole, the sources of funds, and then the total available resources. Okay, so again, we only spend money when we have it in hand, but we project to have available funds, including revenues collected throughout next year, 20.6 million. And these monies must stay in Fund 7. All right, we can't use these to offset operating expenses directly. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the projects. Oh, there it is, perfect. Now I know why it was so small. Thank you, Judy. The right side of the slide. These are the projects that are currently committed out of the $20 million. And the reason for that is because normally construction projects take multi-year. All right, so anyway, it's $11.5 million that we have projects currently committed. We have about 5.7 in new projects that executive team is vetting and has vetted to present for final approval at the board meeting next month. So with our budget of expenses 17.1, we project capital fund reserves to be about $3.5 million. Again, good place to be from an emergency standpoint if we have a catastrophic issue with the roof, or some other event that we have a pool of funds to be able to help us. And again, life safety, we always take care of, and also preservation of assets. So I've thrown a lot of numbers at you and a lot of slides. Thank you for your time, and be happy to answer any questions that you may have for Dr. Lorenz or I.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions, trustees, about the presentation?
And Joe, I know it's awkward to present in Zoom, but you did great. You just feel our energy coming back at you.
Thank you. I've got a great team that helped me get prepared, and thank you, Dr. Lorenz, for that feedback, and also the board for your patience.
It feels weird talking to a computer, but.
Joe, I had a couple of questions looking forward. So when you looked at, you've got a slide that I was looking at before, the staffing level slide.
Okay, I can go back and share that screen. let me, okay, here, hold on. I'm trying to use technology here to, let's see, let me hide presenter view, and then this side, let me get there.
So just for the purposes of presentation and moving forward, what I would like to see is in the staffing level, and while you're getting there, I can talk about it. In 2015-16, that was the year that we go back to when we're comparing year over year, and then looking at the budget versus current, and then the projected budget for 2021. I would like to see us take that back to 2013-14 and show 13-14, 14-15, because I want to compare the staffing levels. If we're projecting an enrollment increase to over 13,000, I want to compare that to a year that looks similar to that year when it comes to full-time HPE.
All right, so this one here, 13,
yes.
14.
So if you go back to the enrollment slide, which was before that, so go back.
Okay, very good.
Or even the next one shows it too.
Right here, if you were to look at the enrollment slide, so you look at 13-14, we were at 13,624.
Yes, sir.
And then we were at 13,070 as we were declining. So if we're projected to be at 13,299, I'd like to see those 2 years and the staffing levels compared and see where we were then versus where we're going. Because I want to be very conscious of the fact that, you know, as we were declining, the staffing levels were kind of leveling out because we were working on really trying to retain students, and a lot of it was invested into student services. I just want to make sure that we're not piling on, that it is commensurate to, even if we can talk about some of the changes and why, I think that's important for the board to have that perspective on staffing as we move forward. So,
yes, sir.
And then I also wanted to ask about the auxiliary fund 3 budget. We base those numbers on projected based on historical, but we know right now, for example, the bookstore is not open. We're not we're not selling food or any of that. And I don't know what that looks like with food and vending. Is this based on the projection from a full-blown operational standpoint, or do we have any idea or any consideration of what it would look like if there was a reduction? Obviously, if it was more of a blended or more students were taking classes virtually or distance learning.
Yes, so my team has reflected some of the reductions already here in the Fund 3 budget. So you're spot on with the bookstore. And again, some of the modeling that we had, because of the increase, we would expect that the commissions, while they will be less, but not as dire. The rental facilities, yes, we did do a minor factor, and then they started building some of that back in. And then the same with the food and vending. That one I need to let me double check the one specifically for food and vending. I think so.
I think when we were reviewing these numbers, overall we projected something like an $80,000 to $100,000 loss in our commissions for next year. And that's something, again, frankly, I anticipate us bringing you an amended budget once we know what the state is actually going to be allocating, and then maybe again if there are mid-year cuts. And so this is something we'll really keep our eye on over time. We bring you the monthly budget amendments so we can see month to month how we're doing. It could be worse if we're not able to get back on campus sooner. So it's another moving factor.
Great questions. Thank you, Dr. Lawrence.
Yes, thank you. And I think we are looking, and I'll make a comment at the end about the legislative approach and what's happening there. I had another question on the lab fees, just a comment basically, and I appreciate you guys working on the lab fee issue, because I think it's important that students that are taking classes specific to that area, that they're paying for the lab fees, that those fees aren't ultimately spread over the entire student body, that they are paying, in fact, for what they're getting from that, and in itself not creating a burden on other students by not truly paying the lab fee. So I appreciate, and I know we've talked about this over the last year and a half probably, but I think this is a good move for students in these areas to be paying for the courses that they're taking in the labs that they're taking. So I think that's a great great step forward and move forward in that end. And then the comment on the operating fund expenditures, when we're talking about the operating expenses and increase because of the software, the new software purchase, the new for the student.
The degree planner?
Yeah, I think mentioning too that some of that increase is going to be offset by, I think we're going to be, from my understanding, is getting rid of some programs or software that we're using that would help free up some dollars, so that increase wouldn't be at the same impact that we would normally feel. And I think pointing that out, because that is a rather large number kind of hanging out there. And I think if you could talk a little bit about that, or Dr. Lorenz, if you want to.
Well, and this line item here, the 1.2 million, includes the FRS increase, the property casualty increase, sure, and this year's, the contract with EAB Navigate is 5 years. So there's a portion of that 5 years in here, but you're absolutely right, Scott, that software platform is going to replace 3 others that we currently use. So that will be a reduction of expenses of $500-something thousand, I think $530,000. In addition, our efficiency and retention of students and motivating students to take more classes each semester, and the conversion from applicant to enrolled student, all of those things should contribute to a significant return on investment, which should more than pay for the software platform itself. It's just in the initial year, of course, you have to make the investment before you see that payoff.
I totally agree. And I think mentioning the efficiencies and everything that will go into that, they will return maybe in the short run, but definitely in the long run, I think. But the immediate, and even mentioning the fact that we're going to save some dollars by not using some of the other programs that we've used in the past. So I think both of those things together will benefit us in the long run, looking long range. So
thank you.
I appreciated that.
Thank you.
One other thing, I know we're in the air, don't have a state budget, don't really know where we're headed in that regard. I think some of the things that we're hearing, even on the, from the governor's side, can he just allocate money down to the local level without going through the legislature? We may see that as being a battle. I know we saw in 2008 when the monies came down from the federal government that the legislature very much wanted to be involved in how that money was spent and how it offset. So I guess we'll see. I know that incoming President Simpson had mentioned about kind of the wait and see about a special session, that $4 billion in reserve could be enough in the short term if we see some kind of a comeback in the budget, at least for this fiscal year. There may not be a need to come back in if they can fill that gap. I mean, if there's any time when you have a rainy day fund of $4 billion to be used, it would be it's raining, like it's pouring right now. So I think using that versus coming back and somehow, slashing budgets or reducing budgets, higher ed, K-12, all of that would actually, hurt us in the long run. But making that investment, the legislature worked very hard to build that reserve over time to many very upset people who thought they should spend it at the time, right? And spend and not build a reserve of that, but it's there. And so I think now, obviously, through advocacy would probably be the time to start looking at how do we fill that hole, at least in the short run, hoping that our economy does roar back. We're not in the same economic condition as we were, not yet, as we were in 2008. those underlying factors aren't there. But if we stick where we are for too long and don't get everyone somewhat back to productivity, we could be. So that kind of my comment on the legislative side and looking forward to what happens in June. And obviously we need to move forward with a budget now with certain assumptions based on what we know, and then wait to see what happens down the road. So any other questions, comments from any of the other trustees on Amy?
Chairman.
Amy, Trustee Lockhart.
Sure. I just wanted to say, Scott, how much I appreciate your comments and your questions, and I think that you're spot on. And I think that President Lorenz's point is well taken. That this is such a fluid situation right now, and this is our best guess with the data that we have now. And so, Joe, I appreciate you and your staff tremendously being willing to even put numbers on a piece of paper that may come back to haunt you at some point. We just don't know, and I think everyone's doing the best job that they can with the information that we have, and we'll all just have to remain as flexible as we possibly can moving forward, and being reasonable and conservative, but not to the point that we want to cut off our nose to spite our face, I think maybe is a good way to put it.
Steve Cortez. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, in addition to your comments, I'd like to add that something that is also occurring with the legislature is that of the 206 bills that were passed in session, policy bills, you got about 190 still outstanding, have not been sent to the governor for his signature. And all these 190, many of them have a fiscal impact also. So the fact that they're holding up the policy bills in addition to the budget bill might have a kind of like a snapshot that you may see some of these policy bills get not signed in hopes that they can actually not have to address the budget by not funding or not passing the bill. It helps the budget moving forward. So I've never seen this before where they've actually, the legislature is sitting on 190 bills, and many of them go into effect July the 1st. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Good point. Good point. And I think legislative session, had it been a regular session year, would have ended last Friday. So really we're about where we would have been had we not had an early session. So I think a couple of weeks down the road, the pressure will be on as far as what needs to be done looking forward. So any other comments, Trustee Calderon? No? Good. Okay.
Joe, thank you so much for the wonderful presentation, and thank you, Dr. Lorenz, for having the foresight to know that we do have to be fiscally conservative this year and kind of plan for the worst and hope for the best. But, I think all of education in Florida is very nervous at this point, and any budget that we create is using a very cloudy crystal ball at the very best. So at least we know what our priority is, and it's focusing on quality education to our students. Now we're going to probably have to pivot maybe with some of the programs that we're offering once we see the needs, but I think we're positioned in the best place that we can right now to be totally transparent and open to new ideas and flexibility. So thank you.
I think so. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Joe. Thanks for the presentation. Dr. Lorenz, absolutely. This is a blindfolded shot, with the dart at some point to try to figure out where we're going to land. But I think we have some history we can rely on, but I think in other ways, just making sure that we're looking backwards as we move forward at some of those enrollments and where we were, and possibly where we're going, at least in the short term. And I like the conservative approach. I think also I'd like to hear a little bit more down the road about the numbers, what we think, because more classes are being taken I should say more individuals are taking classes, but not as many classes as they've taken in the past. What do we think is causing that? Are they uncertain, like thinking, well, I'll dip my toe in the water, take a couple of classes, see where this goes, and then maybe decide to go full time? It's kind of interesting to see where that's headed. If they're kind of in that limbo where they're like, I want to get back into it and start slow and then see what happens.
Well, it's particularly interesting because one of our strategic priorities is to reduce the time to completion and help students understand the benefit of taking more classes at once and ensuring that every student who is eligible for financial aid takes advantage of financial aid, because we know we have students who are eligible who are not taking advantage of it. And that could help them to be able to take more classes at once. You know, just sort of on an anecdotal level, like I don't have any data around this, but we were talking in our strategic enrollment management team meeting last week. And it really got me to thinking that people may be sort of hedging their bets at this point, thinking, well, maybe I will be able to go back to work. So I don't want to commit myself to something in case that opportunity arises. Is another reason to keep online flexible classes, you know, choices for those students. Because they have a really cloudy crystal ball as well. And we certainly don't want to do anything that would get in the way of them, you know, feeding their families. So we're sort of riding this wave with the students and trying to maintain as many choices for them as we can and to help get them the financial aid that we know that they're eligible for. They can submit an updated FAFSA based on their current circumstances.
Right. Trustee Lockwood?
Yeah, I think, you know, Dr. Lorenz going along the lines of a cardiac assessment. I think there's another demographic of potential students out there that are still kind of in a wait and see mode. And that's the students who are waiting to see what their college or university may be doing for fall, where they're currently enrolled. Yes. And not that we want to poach students from any other institution, but I think there are, well, I know from the conversations that are going on in my son's peer group, there's a lot of wait and see to find out, you know, do I really want to go back to an out-of-state institution just to go to school online in the fall again? Or do I maybe want to go to Seminole State, you know, undergrad? So I think there's a whole slew of uncertainty out there, and there may be quite a few students who we would not have thought would be potential candidates for us.
Yes.
That's good. Good point. Good point.
Definitely.
Why would you go pay all that tuition to go somewhere out of state to a private college when you can go here and get a great education, right, for a fraction of the cost? And you may see a lot of those decisions because at the end of the day, online is online. Wherever, you know, it's really the face-to-face interaction that at some of those colleges. So it's a good point. Good point.
And we have such a high quality online program already.
Absolutely.
You know, we're well experienced, so.
Absolutely. Trustee Coleman, question? Yep.
And even from the current graduating high school class, which is younger, Mrs. Lockhart, than your son, there's so much conversation about taking that gap year. And so if you're taking that gap year, what are you going to fill in with that gap year? And we want to make sure that they stay current with all of their educational knowledge. And I think we're a gift to the community and the families that are going through those decisions right now. We just need to make sure we get the word out, because many of these families 6 months ago wasn't at Seminole State because they knew they were going away to a 4-year institution, perhaps right from the get-go. But as families change their mind, we need to make sure that they know we have a great, great opportunity for their students, and we'll get a good opportunity to get the word out to them.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, great presentation. Thank you. It's good. All right, we are going to move on to the categorical consent agenda. You had time to review it. Any motion? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. All right. On to the action agenda. Go back up.
Back.
There he is. He's back.
Hey.
I'm Lucy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right, I'm also, I see that Cheryl has them on screen.
Yes.
I'm going to go to item 7A. I'll do each of these separately. The financial actions. Present for the board's approval for the 2020-2021 fiscal year or academic year. Student tuition and fees. Actually, as I mentioned during the budget workshop presentation, we are not, we're recommending the following tuition and student fees schedule, the statutory local fees, with no increase in tuition and fees across all resident and non-resident fee categories and programs. So you can see the background there that talks specifically about the statute, the current status, as made reference during the presentation, just where we are, our current rates compared to the standard rate of tuition across various categories, and then the recommendation again for 7A, recommend your adoption of the tuition and fee schedule 2020-2021 for all programs as presented with no increase in tuition or fees.
I think there were, Joe, I think there was an issue with the screen sharing on that. So Cheryl, I think Dick just went over to take care of it, but is everyone comfortable with that?
Let me see if I'm still able to. I can share my screen with Cheryl's permission. Okay, all right. I think you have it on the screen here.
There you go. There you go. Okay.
Right. So what you're seeing here is some of my notes to help with the timing. So you're kind of getting a peek behind the curtain. And anyway, so I'll quickly go through that. And this is item 7A 2021, 2020-2021 student tuition and fees. Here, the background. Here's the specific statutory authority. Also reference to the General Appropriations Act, where there's been no change in the standard tuition of $71.98 per credit hours. I won't read through the statutes, but this is our statutory authority for us to do so, and then the various percentages. Here's the comparison here of our current rates to standard tuition, and then I'll try to highlight if I don't break anything. Yeah, here we go. So we actually have, this standard maximum includes the differential rate that we're allowed to charge over above the $71.98. We are again not recommending, just showing where we are in comparison to the rate, as well as you saw the slide that talked about where we are compared to the system. And then finally, the recommendation of just the adoption of the tuition and fee schedule for 2020-2021 as presented with no increase in tuition and fees. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have, and then also request your approval.
Mr. Chairman, I'd go ahead and make a motion to adopt the tuition and fee schedule as presented.
I second.
Motion and a second. Any questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Unanimous.
Thank you. All right, and I'm going to go through and just go from my version, and if again, since we have it working on screen and presenting item 7B, proposed lab fees effective for fall 2020. And again, you can see again the transmittal letter going through the background. Here is the statutory authority specifically for us to charge lab fees. Chair Howard, you recall I made reference to, again, our statutory obligation. I'm just going to highlight it here that we do not make a profit on these fees. It's only for the students in that program. It equals the cost of services. And again, these are unique and unusual to offer the course or program. Again, going through the specific requirement to post publicly 28 days, we have in fact did post publicly and now taking it for your approval after that required notice period. And again, you can see the range here. Last May 19, just to refresh the board, here we go. This is the range. And here's the actual date when we sent the email to students, and also the posting on our website, April 1st and April 9th. So our current status is right now the items, 106 courses listed on the following pages. Oh, I didn't update this list. And you heard me talk about it during the budget workshop, specifically for the nursing one. The increase is being requested due to the unique accreditation or requirements for the nursing program. And again, you'll see a lot for our constructions and trades programs. The reason for that is they had a curriculum redesign to allow flexibility for students, not only our full-time students, but also those that are part-time, to allow them to complete faster, all right, and with more success. So a lot of these, the fees were already in existence, but because of the curriculum redesign, they had to assign new course numbers. So you're seeing those fees transfer to these new course numbers, or as part of again, one large master course now broken up into different courses to allow for flexibility. I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you may have on the item, and also request the board's adoption of the lab fee changes effective fall 2020.
Is there a motion? Discussion? Questions?
Move to approve the item as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Unanimous. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, and this is also another one of those items you heard me refer to that we take to the board this time of year as we enter the new fiscal year. And facility use fees is another one. And you can see the, let me go down here to the background. We have a college procedure that talks about the facility use, and also that we take the user fee schedule to the board for approval. All right, so these are the task force is recommending the following changes. Getting parity between the employee discount to make it the same as the not-for-profit discount. Now that we have the building and fire tower, just updating that to identify the specific facilities that the facility that we have now, as well as the requirements. Also adding public safety rates. You can see that for the gun range, we've increased this, as you can see, related specifically to the Geneva Center. We've also added an anticipation of the new Raiders Center opening, perhaps late fall or early spring. Wanted to, again, get the board's approval for us to be able to rent that and charge a fee. And then also a public safety certified site supervisor at $40 per hour. So staff recommends that the board approve the changes in the facility use schedule for use of college facilities by outside entities, again, as recommended by staff. And I'll just scroll through. This is the complete facility use fee schedule if the board approves the changes in fees. I'd be happy to answer any questions and also request your approval and adoption.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you. And this next item, let me click on this. I'm navigating through. This is the degree planner software that I made reference to earlier. And thank you, Chair Howard, and also Dr. Lorenz for clarifying. Not only are we expected to have a reduction in savings because we're going to be going to one product and eliminating contracts for other products to the tune of approximately $530,000. We think that the additional efficiencies gained and some of the really enhanced features of having this product would also allow our students to be able to retain our students and also help them complete and to get that credential or that degree to help them get employed in the workforce. So with that intro, I'll turn it over to either Dr. Lorenz. How would you like me to turn it over to you or Dr.
I'll take it. So just to sort of refresh everybody's understanding, this is a software platform that we would adopt, and it would sort of act like a student portal for every student. This was settled on after, I believe it was more than 2 years of deliberative research by a committee made up of academic affairs, student affairs, and our computing IT folks. And, you know, we often refer to this as degree planner software. And that was kind of the initial intent in going out to look for a product or platform like this, to really put tools in the hands of students as well as advisors to help students know what classes they needed to take when to fulfill their degree plan and keep them on track. It turns out through that research, we found that many of the top platforms offer much, much more than just degree planner. That's sort of our shorthand when we talk about this. But really what this is a student success management system that really will help us to enact and mobilize critical elements of our strategic plan. As I said, one of our top goals is to reduce time to completion so that students can achieve their goals and get out into the workforce earlier at a higher salary point. This also really helps to facilitate the adoption of a guided pathways model, and it also really front loads career assessment and helps to contextualize a student's academic experience with their career goals in mind. Some of the expected outcomes include improvement in conversion from applicant to enrolled student, improvement in retention from semester to semester and year to year, improvement in the quality of advisor-student relationships, because advisors will have these tools in hand, have a lot of data to know which students they need to intervene with when, and they can really spend their time having substantive conversations with our students. We think this will also really help to improve efficiency in our communication and direct service to students, improvement in overall completion rates, again, decrease in time to completion, and all of that will add up to really great outcomes for our students and significant return on investment for the institution so that we can continue to reinvest and serve more students better over time. I'm happy to take any questions. If there was anything specifically about the contract, I can take those questions. And Dick Hammond, thanks to him, he negotiated a great deal for us, and he could also probably chime in and speak to the contract if needed.
So I have just a couple of quick comments. Of course, Dr. Lorenz, you and I spoke about this. I'm sure you talked to every one of the trustees at length about it's a significant investment. Mm-hmm. I'm of course always impressed with the way that Dick handles these types of negotiations, ability to make sure that we have an out, if you will, after was it 3 years?
Yes.
So that gives me some comfort if after we get into this we see that it really isn't providing us what we had hoped. But I'm excited about what they're saying this could mean to us as an institution and to our students. So you know, it's a lot of money, but it could be incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Pardon?
No, I was ready to make a motion if that's appropriate. I move to approve the approval of the contract with the EAB for licensing to navigate as proposed.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that ends the action agenda for today. We'll go on to the foundation update. Trustee Calderon.
Great. Well, thank you for the opportunity to share some more good news. Since the last trustee meeting, the foundation has received $80,000 from the Art and Phyllis Grindle Foundation, in which $50,000 will be put towards direct support for the Grindle Honors Program, while the other $30,000 will be used to help grow the Art and Phyllis Grindle Honors Institute Scholarship Fund. We're so very thankful to Gail Chiotti and the Grindle Foundation for their continued support of our students at Seminole State College. And believe it or not, the foundation took part in the hashtag Giving Tuesday Now global event last week with support from Addition Financial, Wells Fargo, Generation Ohm, and many other individuals. The foundation will be able to offer another round of relief gift cards. An announcement will be sent out to the students enrolled in summer classes through Canvas as soon as the application goes live. And the 37th annual Dream Cup has been postponed until June 1st. So the foundation is working with the Legacy Club to make sure appropriate additional safety guidelines are implemented and followed throughout the entirety of the event. We have already received positive feedback from many of our registered teams, and we're looking forward to a fun and successful outing. I think people need to get outside and off of these WebEx and Zoom calls and support a wonderful cause. So I know I'm looking forward to going out there, and I think the Legacy Club has a lot of experience in social distancing and safe play because they're out playing 7 days a week over there. So
John Gillen just gave you a thumbs up.
All right, John, you have to go to the golf course too. I even have a new Lily outfit. Surprise, surprise.
All right.
Ready to go. Very good. Okay.
That concludes my report. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, great. Well, thank you. Great report. Awesome news. Okay. No other business? Dr. Lorenz, any other business? No. All right. Having no other business before this board, this meeting stands adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.